अस्सलाम वालेकुम व्यूवर्स, आज की इस वीडियो में हम डिस्कस करेंगे सिंबलिज्म इन मिसेस डॉलवे नावल. Woolf uses various symbols throughout the novel to convey deeper meanings. One prominent symbol is a flower. The Clarissa purchased for her party. These flowers symbolize the temporary nature of the life, beauty and passage of time. Beauty with the passage of time. Another symbol in this novel is mirror. Recurring symbol in the novel, this represents self-awareness and reflection due to character faces their own identities and reflection on their lives. The mirror images of mirrors shows the concept of personal identification and the search of one's true self. The party that Clarissa Dalloway is preparing symbolizing the social expectation and norms of the upper class. It provides a structure for the study of society rules, relationship, and the mask people wear in social situations. Septimus' pocket knife become as an symbol of his internal struggle and ultimately his tragic fate. The knife served as a reminder of Septimus' inner trauma and the impact of war on his psyche. He looked at his knife for a moment, then he looked at the sky. Stream of consciousness in Mrs. Dalloway. Stream of consciousness in Mrs. Dalloway is the technique in which written fiction aims to represent the character's inner thoughts and perception. Mrs. Dalloway, a novel, takes place in a single day, a Wednesday, mid-June 1923. एक ही दिन में इस नावल की सारी सेटिंग है. सुबह को स्टार्ट होता है, शाम को खत्म हो जाता है. Clarissa is the main character in the novel. She is the narrator in the beginning of the story. Clarissa preparing for the party in the evening. Clarissa जो है वो अपनी तैयारियां कर रही है क्योंकि शाम को पार्टी उसने एक अरेंज की है. Peter Hughes and Richard loves Clarissa Dalloway's stream of consciousness technique is characterized by the thoughts of the main character. The character goes back in the past memories and comes back in the present. Mrs. Dalloway in this story captures the character thought to tell them a story. In the beginning, Clarissa prepared for a party. She reminds her youth days and spent in Burton. Another character, Septimus, and his wife Lucrezia enters in a story. He struggles with the after effects of the war, जो कि Septimus था, ठीक है, और उसकी wife. He feels that life has little meaning. He lost his good friends even in the war. He continued to carry on conversation with his last friend. Peter sees the Septimus and Lucrezia discussing about suicide. He was unaware of the deep emotions. Lucrezia scheduled an appointment with Sir William to talk about Stephen's madness. Clarissa hosts a party. William explained that one of her patients, Septimus, commits suicide. William जब उसकी पार्टी में आता है तो क्लैरिस को बताता है कि वो जो उसका एक पेशेंट था उसकी डेथ हो गई, उसने सुसाइड अटेम्प्ट कर लिया. Septimus escaped from the treatment and jumps from the window. वो ट्रीटमेंट नहीं कराना चाहता था, इसकी वजह से वो विंडो से जंप कर लेता है, सुसाइडल अटेम्प्ट करके सुसाइड कर लेता है. The whole party and with Clarissa surprisingly disappointment at the success of her party. Mrs. Dalloway as a social star, ठीक है. By English novelist it criticized the society boldly as well as bitterly. Virginia Woolf's social satire on English society shows in 4 sections. First, Mrs. Dalloway shows Big Ben symbolism. The Big Ben is a symbol of Queen. It controls people, acts, and thinking fighting. Septimus, regarded as insane. Septimus was a young man and had a bright future, but the World War I destroyed him. When World War I ended, he found himself unable to fail. He completely rejects the English society and also believes that it is full of evil. Instead of giving up, he commits suicide and dies bravely from window, jump out from the window. Also beside Dr. Holmes and Sir William, Miss Gilman, who is of humble origin, another believer of Queen. She represents evil religion. Mrs. Gilman also wants to control Mrs. Dalloway's daughter Elizabeth, but she fails. Dr. Holmes, William, and Gilman are all part of the Queen. Virginia Woolf's style and on English society represented in a no-love society which shows harsh and ugly loves, just as Stephen Woolf also want to overcome the old society and build up as an ideal one where there is full of love. Basically, Mrs. Dalloway is a style on society, particularly the British upper class. This novel shows the hypocrisy of the British upper class in 1921. आगे मिसेस डॉलवे के जो मैंने कुछ कोट लिखे हुए हैं. मिसेस डॉलवे is always giving parties to cover the silence. Mrs. Dalloway said she wouldn't buy a flower herself. It was a silly dream being unhappy. So I'm done with this video. Next video तक मुझे दीजिए इजाज़त. See you soon. अल्लाह हाफिज़.